Hello guys, welcome to Chasing a Murderer, guys, and I'm gonna do something a little bit different today. As you know, I've been dealing with an infection. I think that's trying to get better, and then I got sick on top of that. So trying to make these videos as easy as possible, and I don't feel up to looking into the camera. So guys, we are hearing a lot going on, and I've been working on this series attached to the Lori Vallow case, and for a year of every day, and I mean literally every day, collecting information on that case. And I continue to find new information to add to it every day. That has been a bit overwhelming and time consuming in itself. And then when I was going through all that, and I'm usually on top of this case, I got sick, and so you had the Tammy Daybell autopsy that was released to the police, but was not released to the public. And so I have some things to say about that. And just recently, Court TV actually talked to Chad Daybell's daughter, Emma, which I want to talk about as well. So while I do this, you guys get to look at all the wild animals that I have near my house that I'm sitting in a hammock outside healing, just trying to find the best thing to enjoy in life while I heal and do some research. So right there to your right, that is called a snake bird. They actually swim kind of like penguins, but they actually have feathers and can fly. And then you have the snowy egret right in there. And I really can't tell what that is right there. If it's an eagle, he's not usually sitting there. So you guys get to look at that. Usually I have a lot more birds here, but around this time of year, it's time to start getting ready to mate. Okay, so let's talk about the Tammy Daybell autopsy first, and Chad's children. So one thing, I've always been concerned about Chad Daybell's children, but a lot of people are not so concerned about that. In fact, they are angry with his children because they believe that they had something to do with all this. And so I haven't been able to really talk about that, because last time I said I felt bad for the kids, pretty much got attacked. If people don't agree with you, they can be quite ugly. But yeah, I was concerned about the kids. I knew at the beginning them kids had no clue what was going on. They had trusted their parents, and they were only let into Chad Daybell's life where he allowed them to be inside his life. And I really don't think that they really even knew Chad Daybell that well. Chad is mostly about Chad Daybell and what Chad wants to do, and everything rotates around Chad, which you'll learn in this series that I'm covering as we move forward and we learn more about his life. You'll learn how he likes to manipulate people in order to get what he wants. When this case first broke, I remember there were people making comments about his daughter Emma. And if you know Chad's background, you know that Emma is one of his favorite children. And I don't know if I should word it that way, but it just seems that's the proper way to do it. He always felt like Emma was somebody special. And he says this in his books and his blogs. And so that's his little girl. When the story broke, we heard that Emma was making faces at the media. But guys, nobody knew what them kids, knew at the time. They didn't understand what them kids were going through. And they have no idea how clueless they were about their own father. And I figured as time went on and the story unfolded, that in time they would have that moment where they would have time to think and reflect on everything that happened, and finally the two and two would come together and they would start asking more questions and they would start doubting him, which I think that's where Emma's at right now, because she did agree to talk to a reporter on Court TV, and I'm sorry I don't remember her name, and she tells her, sorry guys, give me 2 seconds, that she pretty much, her and her siblings feel left out and alone during this, as this case continues to move forward. And Emma is actually concerned about the fact that she hasn't had a chance to see the autopsy. She wants to know what's in it. And you can hear the concern in her voice. And if this was your mother and this was you going through this, you definitely would feel like you had the right to know what they found in that autopsy. But you also need to know that in order to bring justice, if they found something in that autopsy, you have to be careful with that information. So it's a very tough situation to be in. And when we listen to the audio that this Court TV shares, it sounds incredibly difficult for Emma. And she sounds like she's really struggling mentally and emotionally, awaiting to understand what is happening in her life. She's lost her mother and her father. All of them have. And so right at this point, Chad must be in a big financial bind, and he awaits what we're hearing, that there are the murder charges soon to come. And so this is going to even set him back financially more. So what's going to happen with the homes that he owns, the property that he owns, and the children who depend on those properties? Now, what was interesting is I have not heard her concern about those children. Her concern is for her mother. And so this was a little bit concerning to me. I'm not certain as to why she didn't, mention that. Could it be, she's protecting the case, or does she not care? Her main concern is, her mother. And but what is she looking forward? Not so much forward to, but what is she looking at? Is she looking at the fact that she can clear her father's name, or that she can bring justice for her mother? So Chanley Painter, the reporter, says she wanted to reach out to Emma and get her comments about this autopsy. She mentions that last week she's seen the press release on Tammy's autopsy and how it's complete, but it's not being made public. She also mentions the fact that she's concerned because she doesn't know about it. She had to find out about it just like anybody else. Family did not get any consideration or welfare attached to this. So that's interesting. Then she mentions that she reaches out to the detectives, and Detective Humphrey refers her to, I believe she said the Fremont County head detective. And what's kind of interesting to me is they kind of insinuate to Emma that, they'll consider giving her, what it seems that way. Whether that's the case, I don't know, giving her information, but she's going to have to answer a few questions first, which kind of raises a red flag for me. So what kind of questions are they wanting to ask them? Were they cooperating with police, or what's going on with that? Now, I don't know these kids, so I can't put in my true opinion on anything with these guys. All I can do is kind of play the guessing game. But anyways, Humphrey tells her that they will not, the head detective really won't be able to get a hold of her until a week later. Could you imagine being Emma and hearing that? Interestingly, she says that she and her siblings have been on pins and needles for a year, probably over a year, waiting on the results of this autopsy. What is also interesting is she said that she didn't even realize that her mother's was being exhumed, and really wasn't, you could tell she just didn't have, she wasn't grasping the reality of this situation. But I bet she is now. Her father, Chad Daybell, is involved in something very dark and sinister. And like I like to mention, because this is the most important part of this, and the others are just as important, but 2 children are no longer here because of her father. And so anyways, back to the autopsy. So they tell her and her siblings they all have to come and meet together and answer all the questions that investigators have for the kids. Now it's approaching that time, and we wonder, had they had that opportunity to sit down and talk with investigators and actually find out any information attached to this autopsy? And how much information will they give them? And will this information leak? And if it does leak, how can it affect this case? Well, hopefully they know better than to trust anyone, and I mean anyone, when it comes to that autopsy. And they keep, as much as I want to know, guys, and I know you do too, we also want justice. They are not to let it leak to even the closest person they think is to their family, because it just isn't worth the chance of ruining the justice of it. And the thing is, we don't know these children. We don't know what they're supporting in this case. If they perhaps believe in their father and his darker, his sinister, dark actions that he's had, because I don't know if they've even come to grasp still of the reality of this, of how dark this really is. And one thing I do realize is they have a lot to take in, and it's going to take time. They're having to process this and trying to figure out, this is somebody that they looked up to and that they believed in, and it's a man that was supposed to be close to God and representing God. This has got to be crazy confusing for these kids at this point, because they have those mixed feelings, because they still have those feelings in there, and it's going to take time to process that perhaps their father wasn't that good man that they thought he was. I can hear the pain in Emma's voice, and I can see there's a chance that she's actually coming around and understanding the truth of this case. And that is hurtful to see her hurt. She doesn't understand why it's such a big deal for detectives to tell them anything. So it shows you there, you can see where she's kind of flopping back and forth. She understands it's sensitive information and that she wouldn't share it. But on the other hand, she doesn't understand why they're not sharing it. Emma says in the agreement, in order to see the autopsy, which it sounds like she has a possibility to do, she's not allowed to talk about it. But, she's kind of talking with court TV. And will that affect the possibilities of her learning the autopsy? I hope not. And then, she's an adult woman, but she sounds kind of vulnerable, really vulnerable, where she says, I don't understand why we have to meet with a detective to get the results of the autopsy. Again, it just seems like she's just not grasping the reality. So there's times you think that maybe she is getting it, but then you hear her say something that tells you maybe perhaps she's just not getting it. The reporter asked Emma how this is affecting her family, and Emma says, well, she can't even adequately put into words the amount of pain that their family's going through. And then she mentions Tammy's parents, which we can imagine must be shocked, because as you'll learn in the series that I'm covering, Chad Daybell was very close with Tammy's parents, and especially Tammy's mother. So depending on what's in that autopsy, if there was something foul involved, could you imagine? I mean, just imagine somebody close to you and your family and finding out that they would be involved in something so horrific. I just really couldn't imagine, the emotional trauma that they're going through. Then Emma explains about when her mother's remains were exhumed. She says that on December 19th, she finds out through the press. Everybody in her family finds out through the press, like everyone else, just like strangers, that this happens. And it's 2 weeks later, she claims. And I can't imagine that either. You're at your house, you're not expecting anything, because you're thinking, well, this is just, you heard from your dad that this is just a bunch of bull crap and drama that's just escalating out of control. And then you're watching TV and you hear that somebody you love has been exhumed. You must be wondering what the heck is going on, because nobody wants to believe that somebody that they love dearly and is close to them can do something so bad. And so that's what them kids are going through. They don't want to believe, and they're just really having difficulties believing that he could be involved in something, so dark. And I understand what they're going through to an extent, because I'm not in their shoes, but I'm good at putting myself there, at least to an extent, and understanding that they really are learning. And what they're learning is like a Twilight Zone. It's not real. Now, Emma goes and tells this reporter something that means a lot to her. And we don't even know the truth of it. All we can do is go with what media has, and media is having to go off of whatever they're able to get from investigators. And this is based off of the day that Tammy died. And Emma is saying that the information out there on that day is not true information. And so what I'm going to do is tell you that I only have what's available. I did not see it. I'm not a witness. And so I'm going to compare two different stories as to what happened to Tammy Daybell that day. So according to Chad Daybell and affidavits, 911 call, he says that Tammy had been sick. He begged and pleaded with her to go to the doctor, but she refused, and that she was coughing, went to bed, and then he found her deceased in their bed. But there's another source that says something completely different, and she claims that she talked to Chad Daybell's children, specifically Emma, on this topic. And she says it's not how it happened. The problem with this, and you probably guessed who it is, this person is not reliable, because she flip-flops. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's fact. She will change her story in a skinny minute. So what you hear from her, you can only take lightly, because you don't know what to believe coming out of her mouth. and commented, "It is Julie Rowe." So according to Chad, Tammy goes to bed October 18th, 2019 with a cough. Next morning, she doesn't wake up. But Julie says she called Chad's kids and talked to them, specifically Emma Murray. And during the time that all this is happening, Emma is living across the street from her parents. I think I forgot to mention that they live in Salem, Idaho. And according to Emma, Tammy was found lying on the floor. Not only that, Emma described that when they found Tammy on the floor, she had a pink foam and residue. I try to use light words, guys, coming from her mouth. And I have heard that Emma has actually expressed concern multiple times about the condition of how her mother was found. Now, you must know that if this was you got reporters reaching out to you, people just trying to get that story. Now, listen, I'm one in a million. I will not use people to get anything, but most people do. It's just the way it is. And this girl is got people that she's known in her family life that she doesn't realize are not trustworthy. And she's got people that are reaching out that seem to be really kind people and very empathetic. But the truth is, they're just after her story. So this is something she's going to start developing trust issues sooner or later. Now, something I do want to share is the fact that the reason why I don't trust Julie Rowe is when this case first broke, she went on YouTube, I'm not going to say the guy's name, and she's defending Chad. Later, she's all over the news media against Chad. Not only that, she later come out with Inside Edition, and I'm only going to do a brief overview of this because it's going to be included in my series. Julie claimed that she was being sexually assaulted, by Chad. And she claims that he sometimes had predatory behavior towards women. But she's also said that Chad was like a best friend and that they trusted each other more than most people, that she was second to Tammy when it come to trustworthiness. So where did this incident happen? Well, according to Inside Edition, she said this happened during an energy healing session. And she was doing this with Chad in Rexburg, Idaho, and it happened around mid-December of 2018. She mentioned that Chad had forcibly kissed her. Then he got on top of her while they were still clothed, and he rubbed against her. She said, "I had no idea that he was going to do what he did to me, and I felt very betrayed." But this doesn't seem to affect their relationship afterwards at all because they stay in communication for a bit. And in fact, Chad's the one that actually cut off the relationship, she says, that they have, not her. As you should understand, if you're watching Julie, it's kind of hard to know what's really truth coming from you. So I've tried to use her information cautiously. All right, guys, so I don't know. What do you guys think? And is there a possibility that Chad was predatory towards women? I believe, yes, there is. I think there's a possibility that Julie thought maybe there was some type of relationship growing between her and Chad. And I've heard rumors where people suspect might have been butthurt once Lori come into the picture and she was dropped like a hotcake. But truthfully, none of us know the true relationship between any of these people. We only have word of mouth and their stories that they share with us. And, of course, the investigators sharing what they learn. While the books seem a little bit more reliable simply because you can't change what the books say later, It still isn't certain whether or not even that information is 100%. So I truly feel bad for the Daybell family, the entire family. And I'm going to send my love and blessings to you guys. I don't have anything that I can say that make you feel better. Just time. Just give it time and you will get your answers. And hopefully the most important thing is to understand the truth and find justice in this case. There couldn't be anything more devastating than losing two parents in this manner. It's always hard to lose a loved one, no matter who it is. But to have somebody that you love be accused of so many things. First, being a false prophet, having affairs, supposedly conspiracy to murder, burying two innocent children in your own yard, convincing people that you're a prophet of the 144,000, the Church of the Firstborn, that you're going to lead people through the apocalypse and for the second coming of Jesus Christ, and to be the most deceitful person to the people that trusted you most in your life, that loved you more than anyone else, and supposedly you loved. And a lot of people want to place the blame completely on Chad, but I have a feeling that the blame goes to both of them equally. In Chad's book, and in this series, I will share that with you. He has many signs that kind of lead you to understand that he is deceitful, manipulative, and selfish. And his kids are having to learn that because they really thought he was the greatest thing on this earth. I feel sorry for them. I really do. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you guys for watching. Let's hope that these guys get truth, answers, justice, and all the above, especially for those who have lost their lives. See you guys soon.